Right, ladies and gentlemen, it is supposed to be Mourinho's press conference reaction, but apologies, it's just too late. And I've got a party tonight with one of my friends. So I'm not, because basically the team has landed in Norway, is on their way to Norway now. By the time they land, by the time they get to everything, Mourinho's press conference will be around 8 o'clock. And so I won't be going live for Mourinho's press conference today, but I'm not missing. I am going live for some daily transfer news because we've got some. Today I wanna point my eyes and specifically focus on Frattesi and Solbakken on one side and Zaniolo on the other side. Yes, you probably got bored of Zaniolo, but we do have some very important news when it comes to that deal. That's one of those deals which evolves week in, week out, and every week we get clear observations of what the player actually wants to do. So I'm going to talk about those. I'm going to talk about Zaniolo and Solbakken and Frattesi all together. Now, I do want to start off with Zaniolo, because lately, we are feeling, when we've spoken about Zaniolo, we've always linked Zaniolo to Juventus, and we didn't really talk about other clubs being interested in him. And we talked about how Juventus are interested in him, but obviously they know that his weak points as well. They play in the same league as the Serie A, AS Roma, so they know Zaniolo really well. They know that his mentality and attitude are very fragile, and therefore are not keen to spend 65 to 75, I think, £1 million. And this is why Juventus are trying to get Zaniolo on a loan from Roma and option to permanently buy him, but Roma can decide to get Zaniolo back whenever they want. So that is what Juventus is trying to do. However, Roma have turned down every bid when it comes to that, following that ideology. Now, in these last couple hours, Napoli has just boomed and shown a lot of interest into Nicolo Zaniolo. Now, I do think we've got a situation in which Napoli have shown their interest in Zaniolo. Main reason being, Insigne is gonna leave Napoli at the end of the season. He's joining Toronto in the MLS. And obviously they need someone new for that position. And they have, shown quite a lot of interest into Zaniolo. And I do think Zaniolo loves the city of Naples. And out of Juventus and Napoli, I think Zaniolo in a way prefers to go to Napoli. He said many times that he loves the city of Naples. He's got close relations. His ex-girlfriend used to be from Naples. He's got close relations when it comes to Naples, and he is slightly attracted to this project. However, one of his best friends, who is part of his entourage, who's part of his agent's team, and he's one of his best friends, has said Zaniolo has a 0% chance of joining and wearing a Napoli shirt. And today, his best friend, which as I said before is part of his agent team, has spoken on the radio and has talked about Zaniolo and his, what his future holds. And he has said that there is 0% probability of Zaniolo wearing a Napoli jersey next season. This is what he said. But he never mentioned anything about Juventus. This is why, yes, Juventus, as we said, aren't willing to pay the full price to get to Zaniolo and would much rather want a discount in a sort of loan move. They have said this, but it is wrong for Roma fans to completely cut off Juventus from this. And I think the significant part of this is that this guy, who is part of his entourage, only spoke about Napoli. You see, if he was going to defend Zaniolo and say his priority is to stay at Roma for, until the last day of his career, there is 0 probability of going him to Juventus, and there is 0 probability of him going to Napoli. in a way to defend him, he would have mentioned both teams. He just mentioned Napoli and that there is a 0% chance of him joining that team. But he didn't speak about Juventus. And, that is why it's completely wrong for us to cut Juventus out of this deal, even though they're not willing to pay the price. Juventus are still out the window. Juventus or need a new player to replace Dybala. They need a new player, and Zaniolo is one of the players which are linked to them. So the fact that Juventus don't want to pay the full price to get Zaniolo totally doesn't mean that we can completely cut them off of this. Because, Juventus and Zaniolo still have got a very good and strong link up. Now, we have actually understood by obviously this interview which his friend / agent has had in the last couple hours, a big reason of why Zaniolo wants to leave. Now, he said that his priority is to stay at Roma. But unfortunately, according to Zaniolo, his priority is to stay at Roma, but the situation is making him not want to stay at Roma, if you see what I mean. Now, as soon as he became a Roma player, and this is something I've said many times, he has declared loyalty to this team. And to be fair, when it comes to this point which I'm about to talk, I don't blame Zaniolo. I think, I'm the first one who says Zaniolo has a shit attitude, and is the first thing he needs to solve if he wants to become a top player. But I actually have a point here. And he does actually have a point, and I'll take this point he has. So he said, my priority is to stay at Roma, but what journalists are saying about me, the situation of me on the media at this team is making it fairly impossible for me to play well in this team. This is why I've said it, I'm loyal to this team, I've said it, I've always prioritized Roma, but if this situation of me being criticized after every match, me being turned down after every match, I think it's, it does give me the vibes to leave. And that's what Zaniolo's saying. And to be honest with you, I don't blame him. Our player needs to play. And I'm going to say it, Zaniolo has been put on impossible conditions to play well at Roma. After every single match he gets criticized, he is a big target on social media, he's a big target when it comes to journalists, all journalists do is talk shit about him. And Zaniolo has a point here. He said, it's impossible for me to keep playing in this team if I am being talked to like this. And this is the only reason of why Zaniolo would potentially want and is willing to leave this club. Because right now, in a club like Roma, I'm not saying he is the biggest player, because he's not. He's not the biggest player in this team. He's got the potentials of becoming the biggest player in this team, but he's not performing to the level that he needs to perform if he wants to perform like the best player in this team. The best player in this team is either Tammy or Mkhitaryan or, one of these two. Or Pellegrini maybe. And, Zaniolo in a club like Roma is very attractive, is in the center of everything. Because everyone has this vision of Zaniolo being the best player at Roma, and therefore it's extremely attractive for journalists to blame everything on him. If he goes to a club like Juventus, everyone knows he will not be the best player. If he goes to a club to Napoli, everyone knows he's not going to be the best player. And that's why the attraction and, being attracted to Zaniolo, criticizing Zaniolo will shift and it will decrease. So, I can see where Zaniolo's going here, I'm not going to lie. And it's all on him. I do think if a big offer approaches, sell Zaniolo. If otherwise, I'm not sure. But that's when it comes to the Zaniolo. We had some, this is clear observations coming from one of his agents. I've told you guys, in these next couple of weeks, coming towards May, it will be decisive when it comes to this deal. And today we already have a big news on it. How much is the price tag on Zaniolo? Says How much is the price tag on Zaniolo, says A. Jamie. Right, Roma have established the price tag around £80 million, which is high. I don't think any team, even Juventus are free to pay that amount of money, especially with all the economic crisis after the pandemics and stuff. Especially now Juventus have bought Vlahovic for £70 million, so I can't see Juventus spending even more money for a player like Zaniolo. So Roma have established this price tag around £80 million. I do think Roma will be willing to kind of negotiate, go around 65 to 70 million pounds. And I think they'll be convinced to do, because otherwise I don't think anyone will pay 80 million pounds for Zaniolo, and Zaniolo will end up staying at Roma. So if Thiago Pinto and the Friedkins have said Zaniolo's on the market, we don't need Zaniolo anymore, we need to sell Zaniolo, then it's good to establish a high price tag, because that means if someone is willing to pay for it, you get a lot of money. But no one, seeing how Zaniolo's playing, will be free to pay £80 million for him. So I do think negotiations will take place. Now let's move on to the positive side, because we've got two names, Frattesi from Sassuolo and Solbakken from Bodo Glimt, which are getting a lot of notice in these last couple of hours. And they are in a way getting closer. Now, I do think, before talking about them, I do want to say that the bookies are kind of listing their names as more probable, as more as more more in a way more how do you say this? More probable to happen. Yes. So we have Frattesi on one hand. He's 22 years old. He plays for Sassuolo, and he's worth £20 million. He was originally a Roma Academy player. Now, something went on with Frattesi and social media, which has kind of ruined the reputation of him and the fans. And this is why the fans aren't too keen on Frattesi. So he was an academy player and then got sold from Roma, because we have got this bad attitude of selling the majority of our academy players, which I think is disgraceful. But Roma sold this guy and he went to Sassuolo. Now Sassuolo have got a very good academy team. This is something definitely to point out. He has grown a lot. He's grabbed that experience from a team who, like us, have a very interesting academy team, and who is a big contender in the Academy Serie A to win it. But as I said before, there's this thing which happened a few years ago, where basically Frattesi on his Twitter account before a derby criticized Roma after being a Roma player and kind of signing his loyalty to Lazio. Now, in a warm atmosphere like this one, where Roma can't stand Lazio and Lazio can't stand Roma, how delicate it is if someone commits this mistake in a way. So he is an academy player for Roma who didn't want to get sold, but got sold, and as a revenge style prank, if we want to call it, on his Twitter account, after he left Roma, he kind of went, oh yeah, fuck Roma, up the Lazio before the derby. So, you see, I think, in a way, fans don't want him. I watch the Serie A every weekend very often, and Sassuolo are a really good team, but I don't understand the hype for this guy. Don't get me wrong, he's young, he's 22 years old, he's the same age as Zaniolo, but what I'm seeing is that he is a bang average player. Like, he is not a gem which we want to definitely point our eyes on. And right now, we are in pole position versus Inter Milan and Juventus to buy him. The only positive thing when it comes to him is that if clubs like Inter Milan and Juventus are interested in him, then there is something going on, But I've seen him and he's not that convincing. But he is getting closer in a way. And Roma is, as I said before, in pole position against Inter Milan and Juventus to buy him right now and to bring him back to Roma. But the fans are not too confident with this. And the second is Solbakken. Now, as we said before, I think a lot of the Solbakken deal will depend on these two matches which Bodo Glimt will play against us. If Solbakken was to score 2 goals tomorrow, 3 goals at the Olympico, and throw us out of the Conference League, then I do think, being a free agent in December, we would potentially buy him to be a backup plan to Tammy Abraham. Bring that confidence, bring him in a league more such as a more competitive league than the Norwegian league. But once again, if Solbakken was to barely ever perform in these 2 matches, I do think the interest on him would decrease. But right now, the thing to focus on is that Frattesi and Solbakken are gaining a lot of points when it comes to the bookies. The bookies are confident, not confident 100% sure that they will join Roma, but they're confident that there is a lot of positivity going on between Frattesi and Solbakken when it comes to Roma. And out of these 2 players, Roma is the most, the likeliest team to kind of attack them and buy them. So this is the most important thing to acknowledge after today's stream. Ladies and gentlemen, as I said before, I won't be going live for Mourinho's press conference reaction because the team is in voyage to Norway right now. They'll get there, they'll check in the hotel. Mourinho will get called to his press conference. It'll be late. I do have a party tonight, so I won't be going live for that. But I'd be obviously live tomorrow for the live watch along, big live watch along back in Norway for our revenge. So set a reminder in your calendars if you haven't already, because tomorrow will be a big one. 9 p.m. Italian time, 8 p.m. UK time, wherever you're from, check it out, pop it in your calendars and come here for the quarterfinals of the Conference League. Let's get and win this tournament. Subscribe if you haven't already. We're 30 subscribers away from 2,700 subscribers, so please subscribe if you haven't already. Smash the like button in this live stream if you haven't already as well, and comment in the comments your impressions of these 2 videos and the Zaniolo updates as well. Follow me on Instagram at @TheRomaGuy_, and I will catch you tomorrow